Well, hello and welcome to the show. Are you ready for the lift? Welcome to the lift. Hello, that's right. You got to own it, baby. Today we are talking about how to show up and own your square. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Pat Laurie, and today we're going to talk about a program that I've developed called Own Your Square. What the heck is Own Your Square? Well, I'm going to tell you all about it. Now, over the last 4 or 5 months or so, I've had many experts on the show, but today it's just going to be me because I figured that every once in a while, it's important for me to show up and to explain what I'm doing here and what's my raison d'etre, right? My bad French. Well, anyhow, so I'm here today to tell you how you can show up and shine and how you can own your square. And that is not just how you show up on camera, but it's how you show up in life, how you show up in business, how you are with your family and your friends, and how we can all lift each other up, right? And empower one another. So I have guests on the show that talk about all things, mindset, emotions. We've talked about pivoting and confidence. We've talked about, tech issues and owning your tech and how to be a better leader, right? And how to own your brand and how to really be authentic. And these are all of the topics that go into owning your square. Because when I talk about owning your square, it's like by the time you show up in this space and present yourself to the world, how are you? How are those building blocks of your life stacking up? So today I'm going to talk about some of the things that you can do to break through to your audience when you go on camera, because this is the world that we're living in. And listen, I'm high energy right now. But about a half an hour ago, I was thinking, I love this show and I love being a part of this show and I create, I'm a creator. Ready for my props? I love to create. So I get psyched for every Wednesday at noon. But earlier today, I was like, something was it was dim. When you wake up and you feel like a little dim, and you're like, I don't know. Like, I don't have the energy today, right? So listen, this is part of it. This is what can happen. Your energy can wane and your energy can peak. So what I did was I was dancing around the house. Alexa, continue. And one of my favorite artists of all times. Again, do you ever feel Katy Perry, man. I was dancing around to her because I just needed to be lifted up. Do you ever feel already buried deep? 6 beyond the screen, but no one seems to hear a thing. That's right, I am chair dancing. And I am doing it because it ignited me and I needed to be lifted up. And I want to lift you up too. We got to shine, baby. Woo! You got to own it. And I want you to own it when you go on camera. Every day can be the 4th of July. If you have what it takes inside of you to show up and shine. Woo! I could listen to this song all day. Alexa, pause. I'm going to bring her back in just a moment. But as you know, or might not know, my word of the year is shine. Show up, help, inspire, notice, and elevate. So I'm going to show up and I'm going to be elevated. And that's not to say that I'm going to be fake or I'm going to be faking it, because I don't believe that you can fake it till you make it. I believe you have to feel it. Right? You got to heal it and feel it. And then you got to go on and you got to be like doing it. You got to execute. So I'm being honest with you. I didn't have that energy a half an hour ago. I was like walking around here going, I don't feel like it. I don't feel like it. But you know what? You are not going to get anything accomplished in life if you don't feel like it and then you just don't do it. So I didn't feel like it. So I put the music on and I started dancing around. And I was lifting my leg up in the air. Bucky was looking at me and he was like, Mommy, what are you doing? But I needed to elevate myself. I needed to lift myself. And when you go on camera, you've got to have that energy. And I'm not saying you have to show up like me, like a crazy person with 10 cups of coffee in them. Really, I've only had 3. But, you do have to be energetic, right? So I am going to tell you that music will automatically lift your energy up. And you know what? It'll even boost your confidence. Because I was walking around here, and a lot of us suffer from imposter syndrome when we want to go on camera, but we're like, what if, what if, what if, and I don't like this and I don't like that, and make another excuse, and everything could be better, right? But imposter syndrome is a real thing. So that means that you're showing up and you're like, wait a minute, who's going to want to listen to me? What do I have to say? Why am I the expert, right? And I've suffered from that. Maybe you've suffered from that too. But it doesn't feel good when that happens. It feels like you know you don't have confidence, and then it feels like you get down, right? You get stuck in the mud. You get down. You're not in the flow. Always seems impossible till it's done. So I opened up this book a few minutes ago before the broadcast, and I read this quote. Someone much smarter than me once said, "Don't go with the flow, you are the flow." And I love that Meredith Vieira was the author of that quote. Meredith Vieira, journalist, one of my idols, actually, growing up as a broadcast journalist. So what does that mean to be in the flow? When you're in the flow, that means that you're not overthinking things. That means you're just kind of rolling with it. And I have to be quite honest with you. Today I'm kind of going with the flow because I trust myself. And that's another thing when you go on camera and when you start to speak and present. And if you're getting into public speaking or you're doing Zooms or it's your turn to present at that networking group meeting, right? How are you going to show up and be dynamic? How are you going to get people to listen to you and notice you and really be enthralled by what you're saying? Well, it's because you're in the flow. You trust yourself enough to say, I've got this. But it doesn't happen overnight. It absolutely doesn't happen overnight. And it happens with repetition. That's right. Repetition will help your reputation. So I want you to keep that in mind. And I am welcoming your questions. So I'm going to hop over here to the chat. And I really would like to know how I can help you. But in the meantime, I'm going to be talking about when you show up on camera, how you can begin to own your square. And I don't know if you've heard or not, but I'm writing the book, Own Your Square, how to show up and shine on video, because you don't want to just show up and be like a shrinking violet, right? You want to pop out of that screen and you want people to listen to you because what you have to say should be important. Otherwise, don't go on because we don't have time for that. And that's another thing about going on and having a point or a purpose, having a hook, having a headline, having a reason. Why should people be watching you? What's the interest? What do they need to learn from you? What can you teach them? How can you help them? Help, help, help. Serve, serve, serve. No, no, no. Sell, sell, sell. Not selling. Serving. I've learned that. I've never been a salesperson. I've only been a writer and producer, and people will say, oh, but you've always been a salesperson, really. No, I really haven't been a salesperson, but I'm learning. Storytelling is my way of, I guess, sales. I'm still trying to figure it out, but serving really is the way to go. So how can you show up with confidence? Well, it starts with what's in your mind, right? And what you tell yourself in your mind and how you can show up and be confident. Hey, if you're here, can you just put a comment down that says, hi, Pat, it's so-and-so, because I can't always see the names that show up here. And I just want to know that you're here because, I could talk like this and don't have to know that you're here, but it's more fun to know that you're here. All right. So when you go on camera and when you want to be confident and when you want to show up, right, you've got to have that mindset of, I am good enough. I am wonderful. I am smart. I am intelligent. I have something to share. Right, what you put in this side goes out that side. Christine, thanks for joining. Christine, how are you doing today on this gorgeous spring day? I tell you what, the birds are singing outside and that makes me happy, but it didn't create enough energy for me to be like, okay, I'm so excited to show up here. I needed to shift that thinking around. I needed to change my mindset. So what I did was I put the music on and, I danced around a little bit. Then I went outside, I went to the mailbox, and then I started talking to myself and I started giving myself a pep talk. Because you need to give yourself a pep talk if you're not in the mood to do something. And you can cultivate that energy. It's almost like rubbing two sticks together. You know that? I make a fire almost every night in my fireplace. And let me tell you, it's a bear. It's a bear lighting that fire because that wood just doesn't burn easily. But I keep going in there, trying different things, and making that, little bit of a catch, right? A little bit of a friction. And when you can get on to a little bit of that moment and cultivate a little bit of that energy, then you know that it's going to build from there, right? And then you can start to blow on that fire, and it's going to get bigger, and it's going to get, warmer, and it's going to get brighter, and you're going to start to feel like, oh, maybe this is happening. Well, the same thing can be true when you go on camera. The same thing can be true when you go on camera. You can cultivate that energy, and you can make that energy grow. You just have to believe it. So you have to say it to yourself. You got to believe it, and then you've got to actually produce. You've got to show up. You can't just rely on inspiration. You've got to rely on repetition, because if you're not showing up, you're not going to get anywhere. So tell me, how can I help you? Because I really need to know what you need to know. All right. So you got to trust yourself, but you also have to practice. I hope you know that. And I want you to know that eye contact is very important. So I've got some notes around here. I've got this like little thing that I drew a while back, right? Oh, there you go. See, there's my little person. And I drew a picture, and I put a word next to every single part of the body, because this is what we talk about when we show up and own our square, is showing up with every single part of your body, your mind, your spirit. So I have a comment here. It says, I'm a confident person in life, but I can't seem to make that connection through the camera. Any tips? Okay, well, thank you so much for asking. I don't know who asked the question, but I'm so pleased that you're here. Someone on Facebook. Yeah, that's the thing, right? We all feel so confident when we're in person, talking to our friends, our family, hanging out. But then once we get on camera, it's like, the judgment zone, the judgment zone. And it can be really weird. And it's strange. First of all, you are talking to a lens, right? But what you have to do is you have to humanize that lens. So what you have to do is actually pretend that you're talking to a friend. So I'm looking at your face right now. And since I know that Christine is on the call, hey, Christine, I'm looking at you. I'm thinking of her, right? I'm thinking of a real human being that's behind that lens, not a little circular inanimate lens. No, you start to think about things as being metal and plastic and technology. No, that's not going to help your connections. You got to think about who's behind that lens. Who are you trying to reach, right? And that's all what the mindset is. Who are you trying to speak to? What message do you want to say? And listen, I got to tell you, you also have to roll and record and then watch those recordings back, because if you don't do that, you're never going to see like, wow, am I coming across like stiff or wooden, right? You've got to talk to the camera like you're talking to a friend. So I want you to do a recording of yourself and then send it to a friend and say, hey, does that sound like me? Does it look like me? Does it seem like me? Let's try this thing out. And I know it's different, like when you're going and doing a Facebook Live, or if you're doing a pre-recorded video, or if you're doing a Zoom presentation, right? Or Microsoft Teams, or they're all different. But you just have to practice, and you have to get over it by doing it. And I will tell you a little story. Even though I lived my entire life in front of a camera as a news reporter, anchor, etc., that was one version of me on camera, right? So when I showed up, I was like, I'm the professional, I'm put together, I'm stiff, I'm, putting on that voice. That doesn't work anymore. That's not really like, that's who I thought people wanted to see, but that's not really what it's about. It's really about just being you, showing up and trusting yourself. So people want to just see the you. They don't want to have the Harvard words. They don't want to have the, hoity-toity, whatever. They want you to speak the language that they can understand. And that's how you really connect with people, is not by trying to impress, but it's just trying by being yourself. And that is so important, because I think we all want to be perceived a certain way, right? So it's like, it's all perception. How do you want to be perceived? Look through the kaleidoscope. It's all about perception, right? But how are you perceiving yourself? Because to me, that is the most important thing, is how you're looking at yourself. Because the most important person that you should care about is yourself and your confidence when you're going up there to get the courage to talk to your audience. Now, I'm not saying it has to be all about you, because it shouldn't be all about you at all. But you have to care enough about yourself to be able to connect with your audience, right? What is it that you want them to take away? When you focus on that intention, it helps you kind of clear the clutter out of your mind about how am I showing up? How am I being perceived? So these kinds of things come up. I'd really love to hear your questions because I want to be here for you. So please tell me how I can help you as we continue on this journey. And I'm going to go to Facebook here to see if anyone has any questions because right now I think I'm on LinkedIn. But here's the thing, guys. Are you at least showing up? Are you doing this thing? Are you holding back? I want to know. A lot of people are holding back, and sometimes you don't have the choice. Sometimes you absolutely don't have the choice because your workplace is asking you. They've tapped you on the shoulder. It's your turn to do a presentation. Holy crow. How do I prepare? Well, I can tell you when you show up, how you can come across well on camera is by having excellent eye contact, by knowing where the lens is. I'm not talking about staring it down. And I've got notes all over the place, but I'm talking about being comfortable with your material so that you can look off to the side, refer to a word, and then look right back at the camera because that is another set of eyeballs watching you, right? So you don't have to lock it and load it, but you do need to connect to that camera by looking at the camera. And how many times do we see people that are just like, looking at some screen off into the distance going, oh yeah, that's my, comfort prompter or whatever it is. Get off of the comfort prompter because you should be very familiar with your presentation. If you're giving a presentation, you should be intimately familiar with that presentation because if you're not, chances are you're really not going to be dynamic when you deliver it. Yeah, so be yourself. Thank you for that comment. It's true, be yourself. I was so busy trying to be everybody else when I was growing up in this field. Because when I was growing up in this field, we had what were they called? Oh my gosh, they were like consultants, or no, they were people from like, oh, there was a special name for them. But basically, they would come into the station and they'd be like grading you. What does she look like? How is her wardrobe? What is her delivery? How can she change this and that and the other thing, right? And so basically, it makes you kind of paranoid because you're like, oh no, I'm not good enough. They don't like me as I am. I'm going to be shipped out to shore. Because isn't that what happens in the news business? Boom, not in Connecticut because they love journalists over 50. And you know what stations I'm talking about. And I applaud that because you know what? It's not all about how you look. But when you show up, you have to be presentable. I always like to, have a color of pop of color, as they say, because blue makes me feel happy. And I want you to be happy. And I want you to show up in the colors that make you feel good. So stick to those solids and pop out of the frame. All right. I know I'm clashing and I know that this is a rectangle. But you know what? Here's the thing. You can own your square. It just takes some practice and time. Isn't this fun? I am a props girl. Okay. And that's another thing I will say to you. When you show up and want to own your square, be sure you fill every square inch of that screen with your presence and your personality. Don't be afraid. This is the time to break out of that box a little bit, right? You got to break out. You got to own it. So I am actually writing a book called Own Your Square. I have the trademark. I'm very excited. And I am saying that I'm writing this book because I'm writing this book. I'm just starting the beginning process. And I'll be happy to share with you any tips I can about my journey in this book writing process. And for anybody else out there that's writing a book, I'd love to know what you're writing because it's important to get your message out there. So whether or not you are writing a book or you're presenting or you're starting to do, Facebook Lives or LinkedIn Lives, it's a great way to connect with people, a great way to grow your brand. And whether or not you work for a company or you work for yourself, no matter where you go in life, you are always representing your brand. I want you to remember that. So you know what? You might be a company employee and you might think, I'm just going to go from company to company and just sort of like, move up the ladder that way, whatever. You are always your own brand. So you got to pay attention to how you are showing up for that brand at all times, So be aware when you are going on camera. I want to say one thing about, when I show up, I know that I'm not an entertainer, right? But I am a little bit. So it's like I'm here to engage, to entertain quite a little bit, right? But mostly to educate you. But when you show up, you kind of have to, it's like showbiz. People have to tune in for a reason. So don't just show up and waste airtime. Back in the day, this was expensive airtime. And let me tell you another argument for showing up and doing this thing. You had to pay big bucks back in the day to get a spot on television. Well, now you have free airtime, right? But that doesn't give you permission to just show up and blab, right? It doesn't. What helps though is getting into a little group where you can hone your skills and you can get accountability and you can get feedback from people, because feedback will absolutely help you get better when you are starting your journey on video. And being yourself is definitely the way to go. All right. So I will reinforce the fact that you cannot count on inspiration to bring you through this thing. You need to set up a schedule for yourself. You need to set up your content schedule. This is what I tell my clients that I coach. So I have personal coaching clients and I'll tell you, they're all from all walks of life. Some people that are just starting their own business, they're just showing up on camera and they want to start an online business, right? Some people actually work for corporations and they're asked to be, step up to the plate. They're getting promoted. They're needing to do presentations. They need to tweak them and make them more dynamic. Other people are in networking groups and they're like, how can I really show up and make my material stand out? And then there's CEOs that want to reach reach an even more dynamic level. But all these people have one thing in common. They have decided to do something, and then they have committed to setting up a schedule and doing it, because that's how you get better on video, is by setting up a schedule, having some accountability, and doing it and getting feedback, right? Setting up that schedule. What is your goal? Like, what is your overall goal? What is your end game? Why are you doing it? I want you to write in the comments if you're watching and you're interested in getting on video. Why do you want to go on video? Like, what's the point? What's the purpose? Is it to grow your brand? Is it to grow your business? Is it to get more leads? Is it to have an influence, right? Is it to maybe host your own show one day? Right? There's so many different reasons. I'm finding that, in the process of writing this book, Own Your Square, there comes a time in most of our lives where we realize that we want to be heard, and we all deserve to be heard in some form or fashion. So what is your medium? Is it writing a book? Is it showing up on video? Is it having a podcast? What is it? It can be a variety of different ways. But the most important thing is that you do show up and that you do go for it, and you don't keep your stories held to yourself, because that's just selfish. That is selfish. So, we're getting a comment here. Let's see what this says. Okay, let me see. I got to put my glasses on. Setting up the schedule is what I'm not very good at. Any tips for that? It should be easy, but I don't do it. Well, I tell you, and it's taken me quite a while. I will tell you right now that because I was a news reporter and a producer and video production and everything, I was just always used to, well, I've got to be ready at all times for that phone to ring or to get that email about that next project. So I can't possibly commit to doing anything like once a week at a certain time. I mean, to me, that was like suffocating. The pandemic has helped me realize that I wasn't going anywhere fast, right? No one was for a long time. We were all staying at home. But what it's really gifted to me is the ability to say, okay, Pat, and I know this might sound absolutely ridiculous, but when you've lived in my world, in the world where it's like, Pat, can you get up and go to France like in 4 days and, go there for like a week and come back? Or Pat, can you show up and hop on a cruise ship and be in the Caribbean 24 hours? This is the kind of life that I've been living, right? So it's really hard for me to commit to. I'm commitment phobic in a way, right? So what I've tried to do now is set up weekly accountability, right? Setting up a schedule and saying, okay, what I would do is just time block. So now I love Zoom for the fact that I can set up a Zoom call or a Zoom reminder or appointment and just do that hour, set aside that hour for, and this is what I'm going to do for writing my book. I have, I'm going to figure out how much time I need to take to write this book, but then I'm going to commit to it. Okay, it's going to be 60 minutes a week or whatever it is. You set the time, but just set it. Do not do anything to overcommit though, because I don't want you to have a goal that you're not going to be able to actually reach or meet, right? So set your goals like really small little goals, right? So maybe this week I'm going to do a video message and I'm going to send it out to, my group of trusted friends, and I'm going to get their feedback, right? And, but just commit to doing it. I know it's like, it's so hard to take that first step, but once you take that first step, you can take that second and third and fourth, and you see how this goes, right? You see how this goes. You get more confident, you get more excited, right? And, everybody's got to start somewhere. I've never written a book before. So am I fearful about it? I mean, I'm not actually fearful about it. I'm more excited. So it's about the words that you say to yourself. What are you saying to yourself when it comes to setting the schedule? Are you dreading it or are you looking forward to it? To me, if you look forward to it, that's what it's all about, right? Because then you're going to have this like, thing implanted in your head. So, the thing I also enjoy about it gives me accountability, and oh boy, do I need accountability. I need to strap myself in. But you know what? Even when things go back to normal, I'm still going to have the lift every Wednesday at noon. And listen, if I'm on a cruise ship or if I'm in Europe or if I'm wherever doing a story in Alaska, what I will do is I will pre-record the show and then air it on, the lift on noon on Wednesdays, because I don't want to let you down. So I've committed to doing the show, and I have showed up every Wednesday at noon. And sometimes I've even done a second show the same week because I've got to commit to it. Your viewers have to expect that you're going to show up. And if you're not showing up, why should they tune in? Doesn't make any sense, right? Doesn't make any sense at all. So you got to commit to it. You got to have your 2 feet in, plant those feet on the ground, wake up in the morning and say, today is going to be a great day. That's what I do. I do that. Why not? Why am I going to put my feet on the ground and say, ugh, today's going to be a crappy day? I just can't do it. All right. So ukulele. I have a couple minutes left, but I just want to let you know. See, because when we talk about accountability earlier in the year, I said that I was taking ukulele lessons, right? And so I'm learning. Oh my goodness, that's the wrong one. Okay, so it's not exactly a song, but I will tell you that I could sing like Let It Be, right? Which now I don't know. There was very soon I'm going to be singing a song to you, because I want to show you that no matter what you do in life, you can do it. You just have to practice. I'm practicing this ukulele and I'm having so much fun. And I'm going to be able to sing like 20 songs because there's only 4 chords that I need to learn. And that's, another lesson for you when you're starting out on your video journey. Keep it simple, 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 simple. I actually started learning how to play The First Cut is the Deepest by Rod Stewart. And I got through that song. It took me like a month. And then I was like, wow, this ukulele is really difficult. And then I found another instructor on YouTube, and it was like, oh my gosh, she's making it so easy. So if I had only started out much simpler, I would have been further along. But you know what? Here's the thing. I love this darn ukulele, and I'm going to continue to play it. So I want you to love what you do. And I also want you to be vulnerable, because when you show up and you can be vulnerable, like me picking up that ukulele and playing it for you, you can begin to start to own your square. That's right. You can pop out of that square. You can own it. You just have to hone it, and then you can own it. Hey, listen, I want to let you know that next week on the lift, and you can always message me with questions that you have about anything having to go on camera, starting your podcast, starting your show, showing up, doing a presentation. I'm happy to answer your questions. So please just put them in the comments. But I want to let you know that next week on the show, we are going to be talking about owning your finances. That's right, owning your finances. I'm going to be having two special guests from Benchmark Wealth Management, and they are going to be chatting about the mindset of securing your financial future. What questions come up? We're getting close to tax season, right? And oh my gosh, I don't know about you, but have you done your taxes yet? Listen, this is always a good time of year to think about our financial security and where are we going. And I always have questions when I think about, financial security. And sometimes I run for the hills when I think about that because, sometimes these things can be really uncomfortable. But I'm trying to bring to you topics that can help you lift you up in life and in business, right? So you can show up confidently and you can be happy and be in control of your mind and your life and your business and your confidence and anything else that you need to do to empower yourself to live this incredible life that we are gifted. Whew, I am happy to be alive. I hope that you have enjoyed today's episode of The Lift. I hope you have learned how you can show up and just be authentically yourself because you know what? They're going to just love you the way you are. They don't want to see some phony person that puts on some, fake voice and uses fancy words. They just want to see you, right? You've got something that you need to share. People need to hear that. So I want you to show up as yourself. I want you to be happy because you know what? Life is short and we just need to be shiny. So thank you so much for joining me today on The Lift. And I will see you next Wednesday, same time. Show up.